اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم ذكرنا ما نسينا وعلمنا ما جهلنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من حال أهل النار لله تعالى. I praise Allah, I glorify Him, and I thank Him for all the blessings that He gives without Him being obligated. And I ask Allah to raise the rank of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to protect his Muslim nation. I testify that no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah, the one without a partner, the one without an equal, the one without a similar, the one who is unlike anything in the universe and nothing in the universe is like Him. He has no father, no mother, no sister, no brother, no son, and no daughter. He exists without time and place because He is the creator of time and place. He does not reside above the throne, and He is not attributed with fatigue, like the Jews say. Our Lord is glorified beyond any imperfection that the non-Muslims attribute to Him. Whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah Ta'ala does not resemble that, and whoever attributes an attribute of the creations to Allah is outside of Al-Islam. And I testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the son of Abdullah, the son of Abdul Muttalib, the son of Hashim, from the tribe of Quraysh, is the best creation of Allah and His final prophet and messenger sent to all humans and jinn. And He is truthful about everything He conveyed of the revelation. Thereafter, we remind ourselves to have the sincere intention for the sake of Allah in attending the session of Islamic knowledge, because having the sincere intention is a requirement to get the reward. And the sincere intention means to have present in the heart that the reason we are doing this good deed is seeking the acceptance of Allah only and not the praise of the people. So I wanted to go over some verses of the Quran, some of their meanings in English, starting with Al-FaatiHah, because it's a surah that you recite every day, and it is a surah that has many blessings and benefits for the one who recites it. If the person he wants to have his matters facilitated, before he engages in that matter, he recites Al-FaatiHah for that matter to be facilitated. Like if he is going to, let's say, do a project or go into a business transaction or travel or, go to like a job interview or something, anything, the person recites Al-FaatiHah, and so it will be facilitated for him. And we recite it in the 5 daily prayers according to Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i. It is an integral of the prayer, so the prayer would not be valid without it. So starting off with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, as all the surahs of the Quran, they begin with the Basmala, except one surah, which is called Surah At-Tawbah. But the rest of the surahs in the Quran, they begin with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So that first ayah means recite in the name of Allah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, which means the merciful to the believers and disbelievers in the earthly life, the merciful exclusively to believers in the afterlife. So when we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, it contains all that meaning. And Ar-Rahman is one of the names that are specific to Allah. So it is not permissible for a creation to be called Ar-Rahman. And so if the person, they understand the meaning and they call themselves that, it's as if they're calling themselves God, and so they would blaspheme. So Ar-Rahman is one of those 10 names that are exclusive to Allah only. And Ar-Rahim, it's one of the names that a creation can be called. So you can call someone Rahim, or you can call someone Ar-Rahim, which basically means merciful. The second ayah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All the verbal praise is due to Allah for the endowments that He willingly gave without Him being obligated, Lord of all creation. So the verbal praise by us saying with the tongue that the hamd belongs to Allah, which is the praise, and it's a specific praise, praising Allah for the things that He gave without Him being obligated. So this is what is called Al-Hamd in the Arabic language. It's very specific. Rahim. Ar-Rahim, yeah. And so the hamd is a specific type of praise in Arabic when they say that you're praising someone for something that they did for you without them being obligated to do it. So this is called hamd, and is different than madah, which is something that you're being praised for, but its results or its qualities, they don't extend beyond the individual. So like, let's say if someone is beautiful, that doesn't extend to another person, as opposed to if you're generous to someone, if you gave them money, then you're praising someone for that, for something that extended beyond themselves. But if someone is beautiful and you say that person is so beautiful, they're like the moon shining, for example, then this is called madah, and it's different than hamd. But so the hamd is, when we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, it is showing our gratitude to Allah for the endowments that He gave. And the endowments that He gave are uncountable. And Rabbil Alameen means Lord of all creation. Or you could also say Lord of the universe, because everything other than Allah is the universe. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, a reiteration in verse 3, which means the merciful to believers and disbelievers in the earthly life, the merciful exclusively to believers in the afterlife. And we see why, especially nowadays, we see the wisdom behind God's mercy being exclusive to the Muslims only in the afterlife, because they fulfilled the greatest obligation, which is to believe in Allah and His Messenger. And so those among them that committed sins and fell short and disobeyed, they have hope for mercy. As for the non-Muslims, the evildoers, those who reject the belief in Allah and His Messenger, and they're enemies of Islam, and they hate Islam, and they hate Allah, and they hate His Messenger, so they have no mercy in the hereafter. Maliki Yawmiddin, owner of the day of recompense, the day of judgment. And obviously Allah Ta'ala is the owner of everything, but Judgment Day was specifically mentioned, number one, to magnify the severity of the threat of disobeying Allah. Secondly, also because it was a main blasphemous creed amongst the Arabs in that society, that they didn't believe that there was an afterlife. They didn't believe that there was a judgment day. So they didn't think that after you're buried and after you become dust, that anything happens to you, that you just stay in that state of whatever and nothing happens to you. So that's why the theme of Judgment Day, or mentioning about Judgment Day and what happens on Judgment Day, as a threat and as like a warning for those that choose not to believe, because that's one of the main things that they disbelieved in. That's one of the main. They would say, would we turn to dust and then be resurrected? Like, they would say that's ridiculous, that's far-fetched. So many of the verses in the Quran, the rhetoric behind them is the one who created the heavens, the one who created the earth, the one who made the water flow, the one who made the plants grow, the one who created you from semen, the one who makes these systems, has the power to resurrect you. And Allah, the one who made these things, He has the power to resurrect you. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ means you alone do we worship, and from you alone do we seek the creation of help. So this ayah, first it states in an emphasized way that our worship is exclusively given to Allah, yani that we worship Allah only, which is basically the core and the foundation of the correct creed. That's what, throughout all time amongst human beings, what separated the believers from the non-believers is that we say you can only worship the Creator. And the non-believers, some of them, they said you can worship the Creator and you can worship other things, because those other things will help you to be accepted by the Creator, which was what the pagan Arabs, that was their belief, that they would worship the idols so that they can get closer to the acceptance of Allah, which is misguided, obviously. And then there are those that they would, instead of worshiping the Creator, they would worship other things like the sun or the moon or fire, etc., and they wouldn't even acknowledge the worship of the Creator. So the first part, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, it contains a structure or an order in the Arabic language that is specifically used for emphasizing. When you put the direct object of the verb first before the verb. Because you can say, for example, na'buduka, or you can, outside of the Quran, it would be valid to say, na'buduka ya Allah. So you could put the direct object of the verb at the end, after the verb. But if you put the direct object of the verb before the verb, then this gives an extra meaning of emphasis, of exclusivity. So it means you alone we worship, and you alone, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, and you alone we seek the creation of help. Now this verse, the Wahhabis, they got it wrong. So they recite this verse and they claim, look, this verse says that you cannot ask anyone for help except Allah. And we tell them that's absurd. That's ridiculous. If you're drowning, aren't you going to say, help me, lifeguard? When you call the police, if something happens, you say, help me, police. When, for example, if somebody gets into a car accident, somebody say, help me, this or that. Yeah, doctor, ambulance, anything. So obviously that's not the meaning of the verse. The meaning of the verse is that we believe about Allah, that He's the only one who creates help. Not that it's forbidden or blasphemous for us as Muslims, knowing that Allah is the only creator, to seek help from other than Allah. Because seeking help from other than Allah on its own does not constitute creation, or does not constitute that we believe those things create benefit or harm. So if we ask someone for help to lift up a heavy thing, or if we're wounded and we ask someone for help so that they can, help our wound. If we take medicine so that we go to the doctor so he can help us heal, that doesn't mean we're worshiping the doctor. It doesn't mean we're worshiping those things. It means that we're seeking a means to an end for a desired result, knowing that these things are created by Allah. And at the end, we know that Allah is the one who creates both the causes and their effects. So وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, it means, oh Allah, when we ask you for help, or when we seek help from you, we seek it with the creed that, or with the belief that we know that you create. You're the only one that creates. إِهْدِنَا الصِّرَاطَ الْمُسْتَقِيمَ, it means keep us guided on the straight path, meaning the correct religion, meaning Islam. So even though it is in the form of a dua, or because we're basically requesting from Allah in the way that it's written, ihdina is a command verb, but when in the Arabic language, when the command form of the verb is used from a subordinate to a superior, then it's called dua, or it's called the request. And when the command form of the verb is used from a superior to a subordinate, it's called an amr, or a command, or an order. So we are asking Allah for this guidance, meaning to keep us steadfast, because since we are already Muslim, then we are already on the correct path. We are already on the straight path. As-sirat al-mustaqim, it literally means the straight path, and it's referring to Islam. And so now this path is described in the 7th ayah. Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim. Yani, what is that sirat, that path? The path of those upon whom you have bestowed. Yani, the path of those who you gave them a high status, you bestowed upon them the high status, you gave them these specialties, and that is the prophets, the angels, and the awliya. Some people in English, they might say saints, but me personally, I don't feel comfortable with that word because it's heavily Christian influence. Well, because that's what a person thinks of when they hear of the word saint. Yeah, he does, yeah. And it's linguistic. Yeah, there is a linguistic basis. Somebody's knocking. Oh, okay. There is a linguistic basis, but I prefer myself not to use it because it's heavily Christian. I say righteous, yeah, or righteous, pious, or just an explanation. So, Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim, it means the path of those prophets, angels, and awliya upon whom you have bestowed, because they are the best of the Muslims. The prophets are the best creation. The angels, they are all awliya, and the righteous, pious Muslims amongst the humans, they have a high status because of they have been accepted by Allah. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ, not the path of those Jews who are deserving of the torture. So, because the term ghadab, when it is used referring to Allah, it's referring to um, the punishment that Allah willed for the evildoers to get. Now, some people in English, they might say wrath, which is also a word I stay away from because it implies emotion, but it basically means the punishment of Allah. So, ghadab, or the ghadab of Allah, it means the punishment of Allah. So, we're asking Allah to keep us guided on Islam and to not make our situation be like the situation of those Jews who they are deserving of the torture. Yani they are known as al-maghdubi alayhim. They're named like that because of the amount of transgression that they did.
As for وَلَضَّالِّينَ, it means nor the path of the misguided ones, and that is referring to the Christians.